Buy me for one night, my child needs food, said the single mom to the virgin Mafia. On the coldest, hungriest night, a broke mother walks into a crime king's hotel and makes the most desperate offer a parent can make. But the virgin Mafia doesn't take what isn't freely given. He gives her shelter, food, and a locked door promise instead. Then the first shot cracks the glass. A rival leaves a brass button like a dare. The mother and her child are moved into a fortress where danger wears suits and smiles. He protects them with steel and silence. Yet rumors say her late husband's accident wasn't an accident at all. At a glittering gala, the lights die, the doors seal, and a small hand is snatched into the dark, right as the vow he lives by is used against him. If love is the only rule he won't break, what will he risk when the enemy demands the one thing he swore never to take? Her. The storm batters against the penthouse windows as Mara follows the silent driver through gilded hallways. Her wet shoes squeak against marble floors, each step echoing in the vast space. The suite doors swing open to reveal a living room bigger than her old apartment, all cream and gold with views of the rain-slicked city below. "Mrs. Quinn," Aurelio's voice comes from behind her, measured and precise. "The bedroom for your son is through there." He gestures to a door on the right. "I've had the kitchen prepare something suitable for a child his age." Mara's hands twist together. "I need to get him first. He's waiting in Sarah's car 2 blocks away." "Marcus will accompany you." The driver steps forward at Aurelio's words. "I assume you'd prefer to collect him yourself rather than having him brought up." "Yes." The word comes out sharp. She won't let strangers near Jude, not even this man's people. "Very reasonable." Aurelio's dark eyes study her face. "Marcus, ensure Mrs. Quinn and her son return safely. Take the service entrance, it's closer to the garage." The drive is brief but tense. Mara's heart pounds as they pull up beside Sarah's beaten Honda. Through the rain-streaked windows, she can see Jude's small form curled up in the back seat, wrapped in his favorite blanket. Sarah rolls down her window, alarm crossing her face at the sight of the sleek black car. "Mara, what's going on?" "It's okay," Mara says quickly. "I found us a place for tonight. Thank you for watching him." She opens the back door carefully, gathering Jude into her arms. He stirs slightly but doesn't wake, trusting her completely. His slight weight against her chest steadies her nerves. "Are you sure?" Sarah whispers, eyeing Marcus warily. "Yes. I'll call you tomorrow." Mara manages a smile she doesn't quite feel. The return journey passes in silence, broken only by Jude's soft breathing. In the service elevator, Marcus keeps his distance, face impassive. Mara holds Jude closer. The suite seems even more imposing with her son in her arms. Aurelio stands, exactly where she left him, but his posture changes subtly when he sees Jude. Something almost gentle crossing his severe features. "The bedroom is ready," he says quietly. "There's soup, bread, and milk in the kitchen. A doctor will arrive within the hour to check his chest infection." Mara starts. "How did you—" "His breathing. I can hear the congestion." Aurelio moves toward a leather armchair, maintaining careful distance. "You mentioned medicine was expensive. The doctor will bring what he needs." She carries Jude to the indicated bedroom, laying him gently on sheets that probably cost more than their old rent. He barely stirs as she removes his shoes, tucking the blanket around him. When she returns to the main room, a covered tray waits on the coffee table. Aurelio gestures for her to sit. "Eat something while we talk." His tone brooks no argument. "You're swaying on your feet." Mara sinks into the plush sofa, suddenly aware of how little she's eaten today. The soup is rich chicken broth with tender vegetables. She forces herself to eat slowly, though her hands shake. "Now," Aurelio says, "explain how you came to offer yourself to a man you clearly fear." Heat floods her face. "I don't—" "Your pulse hasn't steadied since you entered my building. You're tracking every move I make. And yet you came anyway." He leans forward slightly. "Why?" "Because Jude needs medicine. Because our landlord changed the locks yesterday. Because—" She swallows hard. "Because hunger doesn't care about fear." "Who was your husband?" The question catches her off guard. "Michael Quinn. He worked construction until he died in what the police called a random shooting." Her spoon clinks against the bowl. 2 years ago. Aurelio's expression doesn't change, but something dangerous flickers in his eyes. "And the debts began after?" "How did you know about the debts?" "You mentioned predatory interest rates earlier. Continue." Mara sets the soup aside, stomach churning. Credit cards at first, then personal loans, the medical bills. She draws a shaky breath. I thought I could manage it, but the rates kept climbing, and then men started showing up at our door. Names, Aurelio interrupts softly. Give me their names. I only dealt with someone called Cooper, but the company is Arcadi Financial. His voice has gone dangerously quiet. You've been caught in a much larger game, Mrs. Quinn. She stiffens. What do you mean? It means your husband's death wasn't random. It means those loans were deliberate traps. And it means you were very wise to come to me tonight. He rises smoothly, moving to the window. Rest assured, your debts will be settled by morning. I can't accept. You can. You will. He turns, moonlight casting severe shadows across his face. Because this isn't charity, Mrs. Quinn. This is correction of a wrong done in my territory, to people under my protection. Whether you knew it or not, you've lived in Bescari Holdings since your husband's death. Before Mara can respond, a discreet knock announces the doctor's arrival. Aurelio gestures for her to attend to Jude, his expression making it clear their conversation isn't finished. As she moves toward her son's room, his voice follows her. Remember our agreement, Mrs. Quinn. Until sunrise, you answer my questions with truth. We have much more to discuss. Mara eases the suite door closed behind her, Jude's warmth still lingering in her arms. The guest room is larger than their old apartment's living room, with thick cream carpets that muffle her footsteps. She lays him gently on the king-size bed, careful not to wake him. Once upon a time, she whispers, smoothing his dark curls back, there was a brave knight who protected everyone in his kingdom. The central air hums softly, a white noise that reminds her of their old fan at home. He was small, but his heart was huge. Jude's breathing evens out, less congested in the warm air. She tucks the plush comforter around him, pressing a kiss to his forehead, before reluctantly leaving him to sleep. In the sitting room, Aurelio has shed his suit jacket and rolled up his sleeves, revealing corded forearms as he pours amber tea into delicate cups. No alcohol in sight. The domesticity of the scene catches her off guard. Chamomile, he says, indicating the chair across from him. Tell me about Michael's funeral. Mara sinks into the leather, accepting the cup with trembling hands. The construction company covered basic costs, but the cemetery plot, the headstone. She takes a steadying breath. The insurance company claimed his policy was void due to a missed payment. I had to take out loans. And the accident? His voice carries dangerous quotation marks. 2 shots, close range. Police said wrong place, wrong time. The tea scalds her throat. But there was nothing in his wallet, no phone taken, just... She swallows hard. Just execution style. Aurelio's fingers tighten fractionally on his cup. The landlord who locked you out today. Name? Marcus Reeves. We were 3 days late on rent. He reaches for his phone, sending a brief text. Within moments, a tall man with military bearing appears at the door. Kellen, take care of the Quinn's landlord situation. Cash for back rent, next month's advance. Retrieve the boys' school things and backpack from Unit 4B. Aurelio's tone brooks no argument. And put Dr. Chen on standby for morning rounds. Sir. Kellen nods, vanishing as quietly as he appeared. The kitchen will be stocked before 6, Aurelio continues. Your friend outside? Sarah. She let us sleep in her car last night when... Mara sets down her cup before she drops it. Mr. Viscari, I can't. After all this kindness, I can't follow through on my original offer. But I'll work anything you need. Cleaning, organizing. Stop. His voice is soft, but carries absolute authority. I take nothing that isn't freely given, Mrs. Quinn. And what I protect, I keep. He studies her face. You came here expecting a monster who'd exploit your desperation. Instead, you found someone who abhors waste and values truth. I don't understand what you want from me. Currently, your safety, your son's recovery. Beyond that, he shrugs elegantly. Time will tell. The grandfather clock chimes once, 1 a.m. Mara realizes she's been here for hours, tension slowly unwinding as each promised action materializes into reality. Aurelio rises, gesturing for her to follow. He leads her to a discreet door beside the master suite. Your connecting door to Jude's room. The code is 1919. His fingers demonstrate on the keypad. Memorize it. I'll be in my office through that door until dawn if you need anything. Mara commits the numbers to memory, knowing she'll check on Jude multiple times tonight. Thank you. For everything. He inclines his head slightly, something unreadable crossing his features. Sleep well, Mrs. Quinn. In her room, Mara watches raindrops streak red reflections from the city lights across the window. The bed is obscenely comfortable, the sheets whisper soft against her skin. Despite her racing thoughts, exhaustion drags her under as distant sirens fade into the storm. She barely registers the sound of Kellen returning with Jude's things, or the quiet efficiency of staff delivering breakfast supplies to the kitchen. The rain continues its steady rhythm against the windows, washing away the desperation of the day and leaving behind something she hasn't felt in years. Safety. The last thing she sees before sleep claims her is the city sprawling below, its lights blurred by rain and distance. Tomorrow will bring questions, complications, and whatever game Aurelio claims she's caught in. But tonight, her son sleeps peacefully in the next room, his breathing easier, his future suddenly less precarious. For the first time since Michael's death, Mara allows herself to sink into dreamless exhaustion, knowing that at least for these precious hours, someone else stands guard. The sirens that usually punctuate her nights fade to nothing against the soundproofed windows, leaving only the gentle hum of climate control and the distant whisper of rain. The storm that drove her to Aurelio's door continues its assault on the city, but here, 40 floors above the streets that nearly broke her, its fury feels more like a lullaby. Her last conscious thought is of Jude's peaceful face as she tucked him in, and how the feared king of the Viscari Empire had looked at her son, not with calculation, but with something approaching gentleness. Sleep takes her before she can analyze that particular mystery, drawing her down into darkness where no creditors prowl and no locks can be changed. For the first time in years, Mara Quinn sleeps without fear, while rain paints crimson trails down windows that cost more than her old life, and somewhere beyond the office door, Aurelio Viscari begins making calls that will reshape her world by morning. Sunlight streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, painting warm squares across unfamiliar marble floors. The scent of butter and vanilla wafts through the suite, and Jude stirs beneath silk sheets, his small face scrunching in confusion at the ornate ceiling above him. "Mom!" His voice wavers, uncertain. Mara appears in the doorway, already dressed in yesterday's clothes, but somehow looking fresher after real sleep. "Right here, baby. Come on! Someone's making waffles." His eyes widen as he takes in the massive room. "Where are we?" "Somewhere safe for now." She keeps her voice low, steady. "Remember last night's adventure? We're guests here for a little while." She helps him into clean clothes from his backpack, grateful for Kellen's midnight retrieval mission. The kitchen gleams with professional-grade appliances. A slim woman in a tailored suit stands at the counter, tablet in hand. She looks up, assessing them with sharp eyes. "Mrs. Quinn, I'm Bianca Rossi, Mr. Viscari's chief of staff." Her tone is clipped but not unkind. "Please sit. We have matters to discuss while your son enjoys breakfast." Jude climbs onto a bar stool, eyeing the towering plate of waffles topped with fresh berries. Mara nods permission, and he digs in with the pure joy only children can muster for breakfast foods. Bianca slides a leather portfolio across the counter. "Your situation has been verified. The landlord received payment through next month. Your son's school has been notified he's ill today. Doctor's note provided. No one outside these walls knows your location." She pauses. "We're thorough, Mrs. Quinn." "Thank you." Mara's throat tightens. "I don't know how to—" "Don't!" Bianca's voice softens slightly. "Mr. Viscari's decisions are his own. My job is implementation." The elevator chimes, and Aurelio strides in, suit immaculate save for a small dark fleck on one French cuff. He removes his jacket smoothly, laying it over a chair back. "Good morning." His eyes sweep the kitchen, noting Jude's enthusiasm for breakfast, Mara's tension, Bianca's efficiency. "I trust you both slept well." Jude nods, mouth full of waffle. Mara manages a quiet, "Yes, thank you." Only later, overhearing staff whispers, does she learn where he'd been that morning, dealing with two men who'd been squeezing protection money from widowed vendors at the Chelsea market. The blood on his cuff wasn't his own. The day stretches with strange domesticity. Bianca departs after arranging delivery of basic necessities, clothes, toiletries, a tablet loaded with children's games for Jude. Aurelio works from his office, door open, but presence felt like gravity. Jude explores the suite with cautious excitement, dubbing it the castle, and peppering Mara with questions she can't fully answer. Is Mr. Viscari a king? Why does he have so many phones? Can I see the whole city from up here? By afternoon, the weight of their situation settles heavy on Mara's shoulders. She finds Aurelio in his office, hands clenched behind her back. "I can't repay this." The words taste bitter. "And I won't disappear with what you've given us. Take advantage." "Stop!" He looks up from his laptop. "You're not taking advantage, Mrs. Quinn. You came here honest about your desperation. That honesty has value." "What do you want from me?" Last night's shame colors her voice, the offer she'd made, the depths she'd been willing to plumb. "Simple things." He closes the laptop. "Complete honesty, compliance with security measures, time." His eyes hold hers. "That's all." "Time for what?" "To ensure your situation is truly resolved, to guarantee your safety." A pause. "To learn who forced you to my door." Evening softens the sweet's sharp edges. They order dinner, pizza, at Jude's shy request, which makes Aurelio's mouth twitch almost like a smile. Afterwards, they settle on the massive sectional sofa, some gentle animated film playing on the wall-mounted screen. Jude drifts off against Mara's shoulder, small face peaceful in the television's changing light. She adjusts him carefully, not wanting to wake him, when movement catches her eye. A tiny camera lens above the balcony door swivels silently, its red light steady. She tenses, but understanding follows. They are watched because someone dangerous might be watching back. The protection she'd stumbled into runs deeper than locked doors and paid debts. In the screen's soft glow, she studies Aurelio's profile as he pretends not to notice her attention. The man who could afford to give away fortunes but counted kindness carefully, who'd taken her desperate offer and transformed it into something else entirely. Who watched her son with unreadable eyes while his security apparatus spun wider with every hour. The movie plays on, but Mara barely sees it. She's caught in the strange peace of this moment, her son safe against her side, the city glittering beyond bulletproof glass, and a dangerous man ensuring no harm touches them while keeping his own careful distance. The camera continues its silent vigil, reminding her that sanctuary comes with surveillance. But after the terror of yesterday, locked doors, empty cupboards, nowhere left to turn, even watched safety feels like a miracle. Jude sighs in his sleep, snuggling closer. Across the room, Aurelio's phone buzzes with yet another message he studies before dismissing. The movie's cheerful colors paint the walls in shifting patterns, while somewhere in the building's heart, security teams monitor feeds and check perimeters. This borrowed peace can't last forever. But for now, Mara lets herself sink into the sofa's expensive leather, her son's warm weight anchoring her to the present moment. The camera keeps its mechanical watch. The city shimmers beyond the windows. And in this strange new world she's stumbled into, even the watchful eyes feel like protection. The crack of glass shattering the peaceful moment comes. Without warning. 1 second, the movie's soft glow bathes the room. The next, a spiderweb pattern blooms on the balcony window where a bullet struck. Kellen materializes like a shadow come to life. His movements are precise, practiced, one arm sweeping Mara up while the other guides Jude. No words, just urgent motion as he herds them toward a panel that slides open in what had appeared to be solid wall. "Head down," he orders, voice clipped. "Follow the lights." The panic corridor is narrow, lit by strips of LED at foot level. Jude clings to Mara's hand, trembling but silent. Behind them, the panel whispers shut, sealing them into the building's hidden arterial system. In the secure study, Aurelio stands at a reinforced window, examining something small between thumb and forefinger. The overhead lights catch a metallic glint, a brass button stamped with a 5-pointed star. "Petrov," he says, as Kellen ushers them in. The name falls like lead. "A warning shot. He's testing boundaries." Mara pulls Jude closer, feeling his rapid heartbeat against her side. "Who?" "Arkady Petrov." Aurelio sets the button down with deliberate care. "A rival who mistakes principles for weakness? My reputation for certain personal rules has reached him." Understanding dawns cold in Mara's gut. Her desperate offer last night, Aurelio's refusal, news travels fast in certain circles. Now they're caught in the undertow of a power play. "We can't go home," she says. It's not a question. "No." Aurelio's voice is granite. "You'll be moved to my estate outside the city, full security, restricted access, until Petrov is neutralized." "For how long?" "As long as necessary." The implied ownership in those words makes Mara's spine stiffen. "There must be alternatives. We could leave?" His eyes lock on hers. "Walk out that door, become prey. Petrov's men would have you before morning." He steps closer, presence filling the room. One choice, Mrs. Quinn. Accept my protection, my rules, or take your chances alone. Jude's fingers tighten on her shirt. She looks down at his tousled head, remembering other nights of fear, of running. But this time the threat isn't poverty or locked doors. It's bullets through windows, men who use brass buttons as calling cards. Kellen. Aurelio doesn't look away from Mara. Sweep the garage. Check every vehicle for trackers. I want the bulletproof navigator brought to the service exit. Sir! Kellen moves with quiet efficiency, already on his phone. Mrs. Quinn. Aurelio's voice gentles fraction by fraction. I understand this feels like trading one cage for another, but my cage has thick walls, armed guards, and your son's safety as its only purpose. Mara swallows hard. You barely know us. Why? You came to me honest, asked for help with dignity and tact. That puts you under my protection. His jaw sets. I don't surrender what's mine to predators like Petrov. The word mine should bristle, but somehow it doesn't. Perhaps because she's seen how he wields power, carefully, with purpose rather than pleasure. Security teams move like smoke through the suite, efficient and silent. Someone brings Jude's backpack, now swept for tracking devices. A woman appears with a small duffel of clothes and necessities, then vanishes just as quickly. Mara kneels before Jude, smoothing his rumpled shirt. Hey, brave boy, how do you feel about a surprise sleepover? Mr. Viscari has a big house in the country with gardens and security guards like Helen. Jude's eyes are wide but steady. Like a real castle? Even better, she manages a smile. Super secret and super safe. Cool. He hugs her neck. Are you scared, Mama? No, baby. The lie comes easy when it's for him. We're going to be fine. Kellen returns, nodding to Aurelio. Cars are clean, routes mapped with 3 alternates. Team 2 is in position. Move now. Aurelio checks his phone. Windows clean for the next 12 minutes. They descend to the garage in a service elevator, Kellen leading, Aurelio bringing up the rear. The armored navigator hulks between 2 identical SUVs, its windows reflecting harsh fluorescent light. Mara helps Jude into the back seat, buckling him carefully. Adventure time, right? Like in your books? He nods solemnly. With knights and everything. The convoy pulls out smooth and silent, merging with evening traffic. In the rearview mirror, city lights string out like fallen stars, beautiful and distant. Jude's head grows heavy against her arm as the gentle motion lulls him. Across the vehicle, Aurelio speaks quietly into a phone, coordinating teams, confirming routes. His presence fills the space without crowding it, contained power, banked but ready. Mara watches buildings thin out, replaced by deeper shadows and trees. Behind them, those city lights blur like embers scattered in their wake, marking the boundary between what was and what must now be. The morning sun painted long shadows across Jude's new bedroom, warming the hardwood floors and illuminating shelves lined with carefully chosen secondhand books. Mara watched from the doorway as her son explored each spine with reverent fingers, pausing at familiar titles and discovering new ones. These are all for me? He asked, wonder making his voice soft. They are, Kellen confirmed from his post near the window. Mr. Viscari had them brought in early this morning. Your tutor will be here after lunch to help set up a reading schedule. Mara's chest tightened at the casual mention of a tutor. Another expense, another debt. But when she opened her mouth to protest, Kellen raised a hand. House rules first, he said, voice gentle but firm. Simple ones. All doors stay locked unless security clears them. No garden access after sunset. Always answer when I call. Immediately. No exceptions. Your safety depends on following these exactly. Jude nodded solemnly, already pulling books into neat stacks. Like a real castle with knights. Exactly like that. Kellen's stern expression softened slightly, though our dragons wear expensive suits. Mara needed space to breathe, to process. I'll let you get settled, baby. Stay with Kellen. Wandering the vast house, she found herself drawn to the library. 3 walls of leather-bound volumes rising to a coffered ceiling. Here, at least, was familiar territory. Books had been her anchor through the worst days after Tom's death. She trailed her fingers along the spines, reading titles at random, until a draft caught her attention. One section of shelving sat slightly proud of the wall. When she pressed, it swung silently inward, revealing a small chapel beyond. The space was intimate, lit by stained glass that scattered jeweled light across plain wooden pews. A simple altar stood empty except for a single candle. As she stepped inside, Movement made her turn. Aurelio stood in the doorway, watching her with unreadable eyes. "Few people find this place." "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude." "You didn't." He entered, letting the door swing closed. "Sometimes, sanctuary finds those who need it." Mara studied him in the colored light, this dangerous man who collected secondhand books for her son and kept a secret chapel in his fortress. "Why did you really help us that night?" His jaw tightened. "Because you were honest. Because you asked rather than stole. Because—" He stopped, shoulders rigid. Because I once watched someone suffer for my desires and I swore it would never happen again." The words came slowly, weighted with old pain. "I was 17. There was a housemaid, Marina. We flirted, both young and stupid. I initiated more, not understanding the power I held simply by being who I was." Mara's breath caught as understanding dawned. "What happened?" "My father's men caught us. She was fired, disappeared. I learned later she'd been beaten first, warned never to return, his hands fisted. I'd thought we were equals in attraction, but my want was a weapon that destroyed her life. So you took a vow. To never let desire rule me, to break those who prey on the powerless." He met her gaze. "My rivals mock it, call me the Virgin King. Let them. I control need like a switch, on when useful, off when dangerous." The chapel's silence held them for a long moment before Mara spoke. "That's why Petrov targeted us. He thinks helping me means you're weak." "He'll learn differently." Aurelio's voice carried the quiet certainty of a blade being drawn. The afternoon passed in a haze of tutoring evaluations and security briefings. Jude adapted with childhood resilience, treating armed guards like friendly giants and treating each new rule as an exciting challenge. As dusk gathered, Kellen's phone buzzed. His expression shifted from neutral to granite as he listened. "Sir, package at the service gate. Priority review needed." Aurelio's response was immediate. "Sweep it. Bring it to my office." Mara followed, gut clenching. The package was small, wrapped in brown paper. After careful scanning, Kellen opened it. Inside lay Jude's stuffed fox from their apartment mailbox. Its throat had been slashed with red marker, cotton stuffing spilling out like pale blood. A brass button with a star design was pinned through one ear. "Lockdown!" Aurelio ordered, voice arctic. "Full perimeter seal. Mrs. Quinn, take Jude to his room. Kellen, coordinate teams. I want that courier route, traced through every traffic camera in the city." Mara clutched the fox, hands trembling. "He knows where we lived. He could have—" "But he didn't." Aurelio gripped her shoulders. "This is theater, meant to frighten. He won't touch either of you. I'm going to find him, and then I'm going to teach him why some fears are justified." Teams moved with practiced precision, sealing doors and checking sensors. Aurelio left with a strike unit, face set in lines that promised violence. Mara carried the fox upstairs, where Jude was already in pajamas. "Fox got hurt?" he asked, seeing the torn throat. "Just a little." Mara forced a smile. "Nothing we can't fix." She found a sewing kit in the bathroom cabinet. Sitting on Jude's bed, she carefully stitched the slash closed while humming his favorite lullaby. The brass button she removed and set aside, evidence of a threat, yes, but also a promise of retribution to come. Jude curled around his mended fox, eyes growing heavy. "Mama, are the bad guys coming?" "No, baby." She stroked his hair. "Mr. Viscari and Kellen won't let them. This is the safest castle in the world." "'Kay." He yawned. "Will you stay?" "Of course." She settled against the headboard, continuing to hum softly as his breathing evened out into sleep. Outside, darkness wrapped the estate like a cloak. Somewhere in the city, Aurelio hunted through traffic camera footage and informant networks, following the thread of a delivery back to its source. Mara watched the drive through Jude's window, waiting for headlights to reappear on the hill, trying not to count the hours until dawn. The horizon was still ink black when the security gate hummed open. Aurelio's convoy rolled up the drive, headlights cutting through pre-dawn mist. Mara had dozed in the library, paperback forgotten in her lap, but the sound of car doors jolted her awake. Aurelio entered like a storm contained in a suit, leather briefcase in hand. His tie was loose, jacket creased from hours in a car. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, but his movements were precise as he laid out documents across his desk. "Coffee?" he ordered, and a guard disappeared to fetch it. Mara approached cautiously. "Did you find anything?" "More than I wanted to." He spread open a ledger filled with columns of numbers and company names. 2 months before your husband's death, a shell company called Starpoint Holdings purchased a bundle of delinquent accounts from 3 different creditors. The coffee arrived. Mara wrapped cold fingers around her mug. I don't understand. Starpoint Holdings traces back through 6 shells to Arkady Petrov. Aurelio's voice was flat. He bought your husband's debts before the accident. He marked you before you were a widow. The coffee turned bitter on her tongue. Mara set the mug down before her shaking hands could spill it. The brake line! Tell me. They said it was faulty, corroded. The memory crystallized, sharp-edged and awful. There was a witness, a mechanic who'd done an inspection the week before. He swore the brakes were fine, but then he disappeared before the insurance investigation. Convenient timing. Oh, God! Mara pressed her hands to her mouth. He orchestrated all of it. The debts, the accident, the witness vanishing. Arkady's preferred method. Create financial pressure, engineer a tragedy, remove loose ends. Aurelio's fingers drummed once on the desk. The question is, why target your family specifically? We were a nobody. My husband worked construction. I waited tables. Someone wanted you vulnerable, isolated. Aurelio stood, pacing the length of his office. Under old code, unattached dependents, widows, orphans, can be claimed as assets to settle debts. It's outdated, but some still operate that way. He can't. That's not legal. Not by state law, but in certain circles. Aurelio stopped pacing. There's a solution. Aggressive, but effective. A legal affiliation placing you and Jude under my surname by contract. It would void any claim Arkady might make through old channels. You want me to be your fake wife? Mara's voice rose. A paper marriage to solve a paper debt? It would be purely administrative. Names on documents, nothing more. No. She was already shaking her head. I won't trade one cage for another, even a gilded one. Aurelio studied her for a long moment. Then we compromise. Stay here under protection, follow security protocols without question. When the time comes, testify about the accident and the witness. And you'll keep hunting him? Until he's finished. The words carried weight of absolute certainty. Mara nodded slowly. Those terms I can accept. What she couldn't see was Aurelio turning to Kellen after she left, ordering a complete financial siege of Arkady's holdings. Every shell company would be traced, every account frozen, every partner pressured, until the predator had nowhere left to hide. The day passed in a haze of heightened security. Additional guards patrolled the grounds. Cameras tracked movement at every angle. Jude remained cheerful, treating it all like an elaborate game of hide and seek. But Mara noticed how the guards' hands never strayed far from their weapons. As evening approached, she stood on the terrace, counting the steady sweep of patrol lights across the lawn. 1, 2, 3, 4. The pattern was precise, mechanical, until it wasn't. A lamp near the east wall blinked out too quickly, darkness rushing in where light should have lingered. Mara frowned, counting again. The same lamp stuttered, going dark a fraction of a second before its neighbors. She found Kellen in the security office, surrounded by monitors. The east perimeter light, is it malfunctioning? His expression sharpened. Show me. They watched together as the pattern repeated. Kellen's jaw tightened. That's not equipment failure. Someone's manipulating the timing. From inside the system. Has to be. These controls are closed circuit. He was already typing, fingers flying across keys. Someone with access is helping Arkady see through our blind spots. Mara wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the evening warmth. Somewhere in the darkness beyond those lights, Arkady was watching, patient as a spider. And somewhere closer, someone was helping him spin his web. The security team mobilized silently, checking personnel files, reviewing access logs. Aurelio appeared in the doorway, face carved from stone, as Kellen briefed him. More guards materialized along the walls, positioning themselves to cover the compromised sector. Mara watched the lights continue their sweep, the one lamp still blinking wrong, like a Morse code message she couldn't quite read. The darkness between the beams seemed deeper now, hungry. She pictured Arkady out there, watching this fortress he'd already begun to infiltrate, and wondered how many more shadows he'd poisoned without their knowledge. The motion sensor's shrill alert pierced the evening calm. 3 guards broke into runs, their boots pounding across manicured grass. Mara's heart stopped, then lurched into a frantic rhythm as she burst through the terrace doors. Jude! Her voice cracked. Jude, where are you? Guards' flashlights cut through gathering dusk, sweeping methodically across the grounds. 10 seconds felt like hours, 20 became eternity. Then a small voice piped up from near the ornamental pond. "I just wanted to see the fireflies." Mara found him crouched by the water, watching koi fish dart beneath lily pads. Her knees gave out as she pulled him close, relief making her dizzy. "Baby, you can't just—" She couldn't finish, tears choking the words. "I'm sorry, Mama." Jude's small hands patted her back. "The fish have sparkly scales like stars. Like stars that could have gotten you killed." She drew back, wiping her eyes. "Promise me you'll never go out alone again. Promise me." "I promise." His lower lip trembled. "Are you really mad?" "I'm scared." She smoothed his hair. "There are bad people who might want to hurt us. That's why we have to follow the rules." A shadow fell across them. Aurelio stood at the pond's edge, his presence solid as stone. Without speaking, he extended a hand to help Mara up. The contact sent warmth cascading through her arm, settling low in her stomach. His fingers lingered a heartbeat too long, and something electric crackled in the space between them. Mara couldn't look away from his face, couldn't steady her breathing. The gardens, shadows played across his features, softening the hard lines of authority into something almost tender. His thumb brushed her wrist, and desire bloomed hot and dangerous. Kellen's arrival shattered the moment. "Sir, we have footage you need to see." In the security office, monitors showed grainy video of a tech, Marcus Chen from Systems Maintenance, accepting an envelope at a riverside bar. The cash inside was clear even on the poor quality feed. "Change all access codes by midnight." Aurelio's voice had gone winter cold. "Full staff audit. I want to know everyone he's talked to in the past month." "Already started, sir." Kellen's fingers flew across keyboards. "Team's checking his workspace and quarters now." Mara put Jude to bed with extra hugs and promises of safety, but sleep eluded her. The house creaked with activity. Guards changing shifts, security protocols tightening like a net. At midnight, she wandered the halls, finally finding Aurelio in the chapel. He stood with his back to the door, shoulders rigid with contained violence. His jacket was gone, sleeves rolled to expose forearms corded with tension. When he turned, she saw fresh bruises blooming across his knuckles. "The wall needed persuading," he said flatly. Mara stepped closer, noting the dent in the plaster. Better than the alternative. "Calling Arkady out?" His laugh was bitter. "Finishing this tonight with blood and bullets? Yes, better." He flexed his damaged hand. "I want to kill him, but a war would put you and Jude at risk, so I punch walls instead." "You're not the weapon you think you are." Mara touched his wrist, feeling the tremors of restrained fury. The man who protects children and helps widows isn't the monster he fears becoming. Aurelio went still under her touch. The chapel air thickened, charged with possibility. He turned his hand, catching her fingers, and the world narrowed to the space between their bodies. His free hand rose to her face, hovering a breath from her cheek. Mara tilted her head, pulse thundering. His eyes darkened, dropped to her parted lips. The want between them was a living thing, desperate to break free. They didn't move. The moment stretched, sweet and painful, until Aurelio stepped back. The loss of contact felt like a physical ache. "I should check on the situation with Chen," he said roughly. Mara nodded, not trusting her voice. They separated, the almost kiss burning between them like a brand. By 2 a.m, the house had settled into watchful quiet. Chen waited in a holding room, his fate sealed but delayed until Aurelio's trusted contacts in law enforcement could handle the transfer quietly. New security rotations were in place, access points double-checked, surveillance expanded. In her room, Mara lay awake, listening to Jude's steady breathing through the monitor. Each inhale and exhale was a reminder of what she had to protect, what she couldn't risk losing. But when she closed her eyes, she felt phantom. Touches, Aurelio's hand on her wrist, the heat of his body close to hers in the chapel's shadows. Sleep remained elusive as her mind circled between fear and desire, duty and longing. The night stretched endless, marked by guard patrols and the distant sound of cars on the highway. Jude's breathing continued its gentle rhythm, a lullaby that couldn't quite soothe her racing thoughts. She touched her lips, remembering how close they'd come to crossing that line. The restraint had cost them both, but the price of giving in could be higher. In the darkness, Mara wondered if some desires were meant to stay unspoken, some doors left closed, despite the light spilling beneath them. Outside her window, the compromised lamp continued its too-quick pattern, a reminder that danger still watched from the shadows. But inside these walls, different tensions wove their own web. Duty against desire, protection against passion, the weight of choices unmade hanging in the air like smoke. Morning light filtered through the estate's bulletproof windows, casting long shadows across the marble foyer. The click of heels on stone announced trouble before Mara saw it. Bianca, flanked by 2 security guards, her usual commanding presence diminished. Her tablet, normally an extension of her arm, was sealed in an evidence bag. "Ma'am, please wait here," one guard directed Mara, who had emerged from the breakfast room. The other guard spoke quietly into his radio. "Package secure," bringing her up. Mara's stomach clenched. She'd grown to trust Bianca's efficiency, her dry humor, her quiet concern for Jude. Now uncertainty clouded everything. "Third floor gallery, 10 minutes," Kellen murmured as he passed, tablet displaying complex financial diagrams. "He wants you to observe." The gallery overlooked Aurelio's private office through one-way glass. Mara found her designated spot, noting the perfect angle to witness what came next. Below, Aurelio stood at the window, his reflection a study in controlled rage. When Bianca entered, she held her head high, despite handcuffed wrists. "I can explain." "Explain." Aurelio's voice carried clearly through hidden speakers. "Explain why your offshore transfers mirror Arkadi's laundering patterns. Explain why my most trusted administrator is moving money like a traitor." "To help." Bianca met his gaze steadily. "The pediatric fund for Jude. Your approval process takes weeks. I found faster routes. Through the same shells Arkady uses? Legitimate channels intersect with criminal ones. I took shortcuts to refill the account faster." She shifted, chains clinking. "The patterns look dirty because I cut across your safety nets. I never betrayed you." "Proof?" "Check the destination accounts. Every cent went to medical reserves or security upgrades for the boy. I wouldn't risk my position for Arkady's games." Aurelio's pause stretched taut. "Your efficiency created vulnerabilities. Those transfers could have mapped our financial architecture for him. I know I was wrong." Bianca's voice cracked slightly. "But I couldn't watch another child wait for help while money sat trapped in protocol." Before Aurelio could respond, alarms blared. On the security feeds, a convoy of black SUVs blocked the estate's main road. A small drone launched from the lead vehicle, hovering just inside the property line. The drone's speaker crackled to life, playing a distorted nursery lullaby. The song echoed through the grounds, a twisted taunt carrying Arkady's message: "Come out and fight or hide behind your vow while I tear down your walls." Aurelio's jaw tightened, but instead of rising to the bait, he lifted his phone. "Kellen, initiate Operation Blacklist. Freeze his port access, cut supplier credit lines, leak those photos from the warehouse raid. Let's see how long his crew stays loyal when cargo sits rotting and paychecks bounce." He turned to his PR director next. "Release a statement. Mara Quinn will attend the charity gala as my honored guest, 3 nights from now." A pause. "Make sure it reaches Arkady's usual channels." Mara's hands gripped the gallery rail. Using her as visible bait was clever. Arkady wouldn't resist such a public target. But Jude, as if reading her thoughts, Aurelio spoke again. "Mrs. Quinn, please join us." She entered the office as Bianca was led to a chair. The drone's lullaby still floated through the windows. A child's song turned menacing. "I'll do it," Mara said before Aurelio could speak. "I'll attend the gala, but Jude stays hidden in a secure suite, with guards I personally select." Aurelio nodded. "Choose your team. They'll report directly to you that night." "And Bianca?" Mara glanced at the administrator. "Her mistake came from trying to protect my son. House arrest pending full audit. If her story checks out, we'll discuss rehabilitation." Aurelio's tone allowed no argument. "Shortcuts create shadows Arkady can hide in. We can't risk more." Outside, the drone's battery finally died. Security retrieved the fallen device, smashing it to pieces on the pavement. The convoy remained, a dark line of threat on the horizon. Mara watched Bianca being escorted to her quarters, remembering how the woman had stocked Jude's favorite cereals, scheduled his doctor visits, slipped comic books into his schoolwork. Good intentions paved dangerous roads, but perhaps they also lit the way back. The morning's revelations settled like ash. Betrayal that wasn't quite betrayal, a trap being set with her as bait, and through it all, the endless calculation of keeping Jude safe. 3 days until the gala. 3 days to prepare for whatever game Arkady thought he was playing. In his office, Aurelio worked his phones, orchestrating Arkady's financial strangulation. Port authorities were notified, supplier contracts frozen, whispers placed in the right ears. It was a bloodless assault, that would hurt more than bullets. Death by 1,000 fiscal cuts. Mara stood at the window, watching the convoy finally retreat. The crushed drone lay in pieces on the drive, its lullaby silenced, but the morning's events had left deeper marks. Trust damaged, loyalty tested, battle lines redrawn. She thought of the gala ahead, crystal champagne flutes and concealed weapons, evening gowns and Kevlar vests, a dance of predator and prey, with her steps carefully choreographed to lead Arkady into a trap of Aurelio's making. But first she needed to choose guards for Jude. Men who would die protecting him, who couldn't be bought or threatened. Men who understood that a child's safety outweighed all other concerns, even loyalty to the boss. The morning sun climbed higher, washing out the shadows in the office. Below, workers cleared the drone debris while security teams reinforced the perimeter. The day stretched ahead, full of preparations and possibilities, each hour bringing them closer to the moment when all these careful plans would either save them or fail spectacularly. The string quartet's melody floated through the Viscari Hotel's grand ballroom, masking the subtle crackle of encrypted radios. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors where Seattle's elite mingled, their laughter rippling like champagne. Mara's midnight blue gown whispered against the floor as she entered on Aurelio's arm. The dress had been chosen carefully, elegant but allowing movement with a slit that could accommodate a thigh holster. Her hair was swept up, exposing the delicate communication device that looked like a pearl earring. Camera flashes sparked like lightning. Aurelio guided her through the crowd with the fluid grace of a predator at ease in his territory. His formal black suit concealed body armor and at least 2 weapons, yet he moved as if wearing silk. "Jude is secure," she whispered between practiced smiles. 2 floors up, Martinez and Chen are with him, the tutors keeping him occupied with movies and math games. Aurelio's voice was low, meant for her alone. "Kellen has 12 plainclothes assets scattered through this room. Watch the woman in red by the bar. She's one of ours." Mara scanned the glittering crowd, noting positions. The security presence was invisible unless you knew where to look. A waiter whose jacket hung slightly heavy on one side, a socialite whose clutch was too rigid to be just a purse, an elderly man whose cane had unusual weight. The string quartet shifted to a waltz. Aurelio's hand settled at her waist, leading her onto the dance floor. This close, she could feel the coiled strength in him, the absolute control that made his vow of restraint not weakness, but focused power. 9 minutes, he murmured, turning her in a graceful spin that let her survey the room's exits. Kellen reports all positions set. Mara's heart thundered beneath her composed expression. Jude was 2 floors above, watching cartoons, protected by guards she'd personally vetted. The plan was solid. Still, maternal instinct screamed at having him in the same building as this trap. At precisely 9:14 p.m., the ballroom's speaker system crackled. A child's frightened cry cut through the music, followed by a woman's scream, the tutor's voice, exactly as rehearsed. Aurelio's grip tightened fractionally on her waist. Across the room, Kellen touched his earpiece and gave a slight nod. The trap was sprung. Steel security doors slid from the ceiling with pneumatic hisses, sealing all exits. The chandeliers dimmed to emergency lighting, washing the space in crimson. Guests gasped, but the planted security teams were already moving, herding civilians to safe zones while funneling the revealed intruders, now drawing weapons, toward the glass atrium. Mara's heart stopped as running footsteps pounded down the grand staircase. But Aurelio was already moving, taking the stairs 3 at a time. A crash echoed from above, followed by a child's sob that was definitely not part of the plan. Seconds stretched like hours. Then Aurelio reappeared, Jude clutched against his chest. The boy was crying, but unharmed, still in his Pokemon pajamas. He reached for Mara with trembling hands. "Mama!" She gathered him close, breathing in his familiar scent mixed with fear sweat. "I've got you, baby. You're safe. I've got you." In the atrium, the trap closed like a steel flower. Bulletproof shutters sealed the glass walls, trapping 3 masked figures inside the red-lit space. One dropped a radio, and a familiar voice crackled through with theatrical timing. "Such elaborate choreography, Aurelio." Arkady's mock-gentle tone made Mara's skin crawl. "All this to protect your precious vow. But we both know what you really want. How long before you take it? Before you prove you're just like the rest of us?" Aurelio stalked toward the atrium, every movement pure predator. The captured intruders backed away from the glass, separating them. "You still don't understand," Aurelio said, voice carrying clearly through the speakers. The vow isn't chains, it's focus. Outside, sirens wailed, a sound that would never penetrate these walls. This would be handled internally, away from official eyes and reports. Mara rocked Jude gently, murmuring comfort while her eyes swept the room. Something was wrong. The security positions were held, the trap had worked, but Bianca was gone. The administrator had been stationed by the east door, monitoring guest movements. Now her post was empty. In the chaos of the lockdown, no one else seemed to have noticed her absence. Jude's breathing steadied against Mara's neck as she continued scanning. The woman who had helped them, who had risked her position to protect her son, had vanished at the worst possible moment. The grand ballroom was a tableau of frozen tension. Civilians huddled in their designated safe zones, security teams alert at their posts, 3 trapped infiltrators in the crimson-lit atrium, and Aurelio radiating contained violence as he faced them through the glass. Arkady's voice had gone silent, but his presence hung in the air like smoke. This was only the first move in his game, a test of defenses and resolve. He had proven he could reach them, even here, even Jude. Mara pressed her lips to her son's hair, feeling him tremble. 2 guards had failed to protect him. A tutor had screamed. And now Bianca, who knew their security protocols, who had access to their systems, was nowhere to be seen. The sirens outside faded, replaced by the soft hum of the ventilation system and the muffled sounds of frightened guests. In the atrium, Aurelio stood perfectly still, studying the trapped intruders, like a scientist observing specimens. The red emergency lights cast strange shadows across his face, turning his familiar features into something ancient and merciless. Jude's small fingers clutched Mara's dress. "Is the bad man gone?" "Yes, baby," she whispered, though she knew it wasn't true. Arkady wasn't gone. He had simply shown them Act 1 of his performance, leaving them to wonder what Scene 2 would bring. And somewhere in the building, Bianca had slipped away like smoke, taking with her all their carefully laid plans. The evidence landed on Aurelio's mahogany desk, with the weight of stones dropping into still water. A laptop played Arkady's voice, smooth as oil and just as toxic. "Your husband was quite thorough in his investigation," the recording purred. "He nearly traced our operation through the Vescari South Dock. Such dedication, it would have been admirable if he hadn't been so expendable." Mara's hands clenched the chair arms. Her knuckles went white as paper. "The brake line was cut," Arkady continued, "after our friend Salvatore sold us a 4-hour window. Your dear protector, Aurelio, may not order such accidents, but his empire makes them possible. His vow is just theater. The blood still flows. He simply pretends his hands stay clean." Kellen placed a ledger beside the laptop. Numbers marched across the page in neat columns. Dates, times, payments. Salvatore's signature marked the bottom, authorizing temporary dock access the night of the accident. The office air felt too thick to breathe. Mara stared at the evidence, her world tilting sideways. All this time, she'd thought her husband's death was random tragedy. But he'd been investigating corruption. He'd gotten too close. And a man in Aurelio's organization had opened the door for his killers. "The smear campaign was elegant," Kellen explained quietly. "Kill an investigator at a Vescari dock, let rumors spread that Aurelio ordered it. Make his famous vow look like manipulation rather than principle. Arkady's been playing a long game." Mara pushed to her feet, fury and grief blazing in her chest. "You!" She turned on Aurelio, who stood by the window like a statue. "You built this. All of it. The empire that makes these accidents possible. You may not have ordered my husband's death, but your power. Structure created the opportunity. The corruption, the greed, the casual violence." Her voice cracked. "You give men like Salvatore authority, then act shocked when they abuse it. You create a world of predators, then congratulate yourself for not being the worst of them." Aurelio didn't defend himself. His face remained impassive as he crossed to his desk, removed his shoulder holster, and placed his gun on the polished wood. The metal gleamed in the afternoon light, blade flat and final. "I won't force your choice," he said quietly. "Stay or go, it must be your decision. But know that Salvatore will face justice, not in shadows, but in daylight." He turned to Kellen. "Take him apart legally. Document everything. Build a case the prosecutor's office can't ignore or bury. I want receipts, witnesses, paper trails. Show the world exactly how he betrayed his position and facilitated murder." Kellen nodded once, already reaching for his phone. Mara's hands trembled as she gathered her composure. "I can't stay here. Not now. Not in your fortress built on other people's pain." "The Bayside safe house is secure," Kellen offered. 2 of my most trusted people are stationed there. You and Jude would be protected while we handle this." Aurelio remained still, his expression carved from stone. Only his eyes betrayed emotion, a flash of something raw and aching before he locked it away. Mara found Jude in the library with his tutor, surrounded by picture books and colored pencils. He looked up with a smile that squeezed her heart. "We're going on another adventure, baby," she told him, helping him pack his backpack. "Just for a little while." "Like a vacation?" He clutched his repaired stuffed fox. "Something like that. We'll come back when the truth is clean." The words tasted bitter, but she kept her voice steady. "When the bad things are fixed." Kellen's team loaded their bags into an armored SUV as the sun began to set. Mara buckled Jude into his car seat, checking the straps twice while he chatted about the books he wanted to bring. Through the tinted windows, she saw Aurelio standing on the front steps. His shoulders were straight, his hands relaxed at his sides, the perfect picture of control. But something in his stance reminded her of that night in the chapel, when he'd bloodied his knuckles rather than risk everyone in a reckless confrontation. The engine hummed to life. Mara sat back as the driver navigated down the winding driveway, watching Aurelio's figure recede in the side mirror. He didn't raise a hand or call out. He simply stood, growing smaller and smaller until the trees swallowed him from view. Jude yawned, clutching his fox. "Will Mr. Aurelio visit us?" Mara swallowed hard. "We need some time away, baby, to think about things." The SUV merged onto the coastal highway as darkness gathered. Behind them, the estate's lights dotted the hillside like earthbound stars. Mara watched them fade, remembering the weight of Aurelio's gun on the desk. Not a threat, but a choice. Stay or go. Trust or walk away. She'd chosen. Now she had to live with it. The safe house waited ahead, a modern structure overlooking the bay. 2 of Kellen's most experienced operators would guard them while Aurelio's empire convulsed, while truth and justice played out in the harsh light of day. Jude's breathing deepened into sleep, his fox tucked under his chin. Mara touched the window, cool glass grounding her as city lights blurred past. The truth was clean now, but that didn't make it easier to bear. Dawn painted the safe house windows in watercolor grays. Mara stood at the kitchen counter, watching seagulls wheel over the bay while coffee dripped into her mug. The peaceful scene felt wrong, like a pretty frame around an ugly truth. Jude's footsteps padded across the hardwood floor, his stuffed fox dragging behind him. "The waves are really loud here." "They are." Mara lifted him onto a bar stool, smoothing his sleep-mussed hair. "Want some hot chocolate?" Across the city, Aurelio sat in his study as first light crept over his desk. Papers and laptops crowded the surface, each one a piece of the puzzle he'd been assembling through the night. His jacket was draped over a chair, shirt sleeves rolled to reveal tension in his forearms as he studied account numbers and timestamps. Kellen entered without knocking, face grim. "We've got the first server farm, tech teams pulling data now." "And the night shift supervisor?" "Singing like a choir boy. Salvatore's been selling access codes for months." Aurelio's jaw tightened. He'd built his empire on controlled violence, yes, but there were lines. Rules. Salvatore had crossed them all, helping Arcadi orchestrate an innocent man's death just to create leverage against his boss. By noon, 3 mid-level captains had flipped, trading testimony for leniency. The evidence formed a clean line. Arcadi had paid handsomely for that dock window, timing it perfectly to make it look like Vescari retaliation killed Mara's husband for investigating their shipping routes. At the safe house, Jude worked on a puzzle while Mara paced. The 2 security operators maintained a professional distance, but she caught their occasional glances at their phones, sensing ripples of something big moving under the surface. Aurelio recorded his statement in his private office, voice steady as he named names and connected dots. 3 copies went out simultaneously, one to the prosecutor's office, one to a journalist known for printing uncomfortable truths, and one to a judge who'd lost family to similar accidents. "The evidence will show," he dictated, "that Arkady Petrov orchestrated the murder of Thomas Quinn through intermediaries, including Salvatore Russo, who betrayed his position in my organization to facilitate this crime. Full documentation is attached, including banking records, witness statements, and surveillance footage." The afternoon sun slanted golden across the bay as Mara helped Jude build a fort from couch cushions. She'd caught fragments of news on her phone, something about raids and arrests, but the details were carefully vague. In his garage, Aurelio checked his weapons with mechanical precision. The choice to go alone wasn't bravado, it was calculation. Arkady had to know it was personal, had to feel the weight of facing judgment without hiding behind proxies. He wrote the letter to Kellen quickly, sealing it in an envelope. If I fall, protect them. Give them the means to build a life far from our world. This is not a request. It is my final order as your commander and friend. Dusk gathered as he drove toward Arkady's inland estate, streetlights flickering to life like falling stars. The road curved through hills dark with pine trees, his headlights catching glimpses of iron gates and security cameras. At the safe house, Mara's phone buzzed with an encrypted message. Her hands shook as she read Jude's nickname, Little Fox, followed by a voice memo link. Aurelio's voice emerged, low and controlled. The next 10 minutes may be loud. Keep him away from the windows. This ends tonight. She stared at the phone, heart pounding. Through the windows, she could see the city lights spread out below, twinkling like nothing was wrong, like powerful men weren't about to clash in ways that would echo through underground empires. Jude, she called softly. Time to move away from the windows, baby. He looked up from his coloring book. Is it bedtime? No, sweetheart, just let's sit in the middle room for a bit. She drew the blackout curtains, plunging the room into artificial night. The waves still crashed outside, steady and ancient, unconcerned with human dramas. Mara gathered Jude into her lap, his warm weight anchoring her as her mind raced. She could almost see Aurelio's car cutting through the darkness, carrying him toward whatever end waited at Arkady's door. The bad man's story is about to end, she whispered into Jude's hair, feeling him snuggle closer. Everything's going to be okay. The security operators moved with quiet efficiency, checking radios and sightlines. One positioned himself near the front door, the other by the back stairs. They'd been briefed, Mara realized. They knew what was coming. Jude yawned, content in their cushioned fort with his fox and crayons. He didn't notice the tension humming through the house like a plucked wire, didn't see how his mother's hands trembled slightly as she stroked his hair. Mara checked her phone again, but there were no new messages. Just the city spread out below, holding its breath, while somewhere in the gathering dark, two forces prepared to collide. The waves kept crashing, steady as a heartbeat. Mara held her son close and waited for whatever sound would break the night's silence, for whatever signal would tell her the story's end had finally begun. The manor's lights winked out like dying stars, plunging the grounds into velvet darkness. Aurelio moved with practiced silence through the shadows, his shoes barely whispering against the manicured lawn. Behind him, Kellen's team held position, waiting for the signal to breach. Inside, confusion erupted. Flashlight beams cut wild arcs through the darkness as Arkady's men scrambled to secure positions. Their radios crackled with overlapping commands, discipline cracking under the pressure of unseen threats. Aurelio's voice boomed through the bullhorn, echoing off stone walls. Your employer has lost. Those who surrender now walk free. Those who stay die as his footnotes. In the trophy hall, moonlight filtered through tall windows, casting antler shadows that danced like spirits on the wood-paneled walls. Mounted heads of exotic game stared with glass eyes at the drama unfolding below. The first guard dropped his weapon, then another. Metal clattered against marble as more followed. But Arkady wasn't finished. He emerged from his study with an iron grip on a maid's throat, her uniform torn at the shoulder. Still hiding behind your principles? He called out, voice dripping with mockery. Come claim your moral victory, Virgin King. Aurelio stepped into a shaft of moonlight, hands raised. Release her! You want someone to threaten. Here I am. The maid stumbled forward as Arkady shoved her aside, drawing his pistol. Finally, some honesty between us. Honesty? Aurelio's laugh was cold. You've never known the meaning. You killed Thomas Quinn to frame me, thinking it would force my hand. And here you are, hand forced. Arkady advanced, confident in his aim. Your vow makes you weak. Your mercy makes you prey. Aurelio didn't move as Arkady drew closer. My vow makes me precise. The knife appeared in his hand like a silver flash, opening Arkady's ribs in one fluid motion. Blood bloomed dark against expensive silk. Arkady snarled and lunged, but the wound had already done its work, forcing him to compensate, creating the perfect angle. As they grappled, brass buttons scattered across the floor like fallen coins. The breach charges detonated right on schedule. Kellen's team poured in to find Arkady already down, pressing futilely at the wound in his side. His signature buttons rolled in lazy circles around him, gleaming dully in the emergency lights that now flooded the scene. Aurelio pulled out his phone, dialing with bloody fingers. The prosecutor's voice filled the trophy hall. "This line is recorded and secure. This is Aurelio Vescari. I'm prepared to testify regarding Salvatore Russo's betrayal and Arkady Petrov's orchestration of Thomas Quinn's murder." His voice remained steady, despite the knife wound in his shoulder. "I'm transmitting evidence now. Financial records, witness statements, and encryption keys for the secure drives seized in today's raids." Kellen appeared at his side, speaking low. "Safe house is secure. Mara and Jude are safe." Aurelio nodded, but kept talking. "The evidence will show that Arkady Petrov used Salvatore's access to stage an accident, intending to destabilize my organization through false blame. Only when the prosecutor confirmed receipt of all files did Aurelio allow the medics near. They tried to guide him to the ambulance, but he resisted until Kellen repeated the coded assurance. "Safe house quiet. Just waves now." The ambulance interior was stark under fluorescent lights. Blood seeped through Aurelio's shirt as medics cut away the fabric. They offered painkillers, but he waved them off, needing clarity until he heard once more that Mara and Jude were truly safe. "Sir, we need to treat these wounds," the medic insisted. "Wait!" His eyes fixed on Kellen. "Tell me again." "Safe house is silent," Kellen confirmed. "Nothing but the sea." Only then did Aurelio let the darkness take him, the sound of waves in his mind drowning out the ambulance sirens as they raced through the night. Back at the manor, forensics teams photographed the scene. They cataloged every brass button, every blood drop, every spent casing. The trophy animals watched with their glass eyes as evidence was bagged and tagged, as Arkady was cuffed and loaded into a separate ambulance under heavy guard. The maid gave her statement, hands steady around a cup of shock sweet tea. She described how Arkady had grabbed her from the kitchen, how he'd used her as bait to draw Aurelio out, how Aurelio had offered himself instead, turning Arkady's sadism against him. Dawn was breaking as the last police vehicles pulled away. The manor stood silent, its windows reflecting the rising sun like blind eyes. Inside, blood was already drying on the marble floors, turning brown at the edges. A single brass button lay forgotten under a cabinet, its engraved star catching the light one final time before shadow claimed it. The ambulance carrying Aurelio wound through empty streets toward the hospital. The city was just waking, unaware of the night's violence, of power shifted and debt settled in blood. In the back, monitors beeped steady rhythms as medics worked. Through the drug haze, Aurelio held on to one thought. They were safe. Mara and Jude were safe. The sea whispered their lullaby, and for now that was enough. Sunlight filtered through stained glass, casting jeweled patterns across the chapel's wooden floors. Aurelio shifted in the front pew, his stitches pulling beneath his crisp white shirt. For the first time in weeks, he wore no weapon, had no guards at his back. This moment belonged to choice alone. The chapel door creaked open, and his heart stumbled. Mara stood in the doorway, her dark hair loose around her shoulders, wearing a simple blue dress that caught the morning light. Beside her, Jude bounced on his toes, barely containing his energy. "Can I ring it?" Jude whispered loudly, pointing to the brass bell that hung in the corner. Mara nodded, and Jude took off down the aisle, his footsteps echoing in the quiet space. The bell's clear tone rang out once, twice, 3 times before he giggled and raced back. "Miss Sarah said we can feed the koi!" He tugged at his mother's hand. "Can I go?" "Go ahead, sweetheart." Mara smoothed his hair. "Stay where Sarah can see you." The nanny appeared in the doorway, offering a gentle smile as Jude bounded to her side. Their footsteps faded toward the garden, leaving Mara and Aurelio alone in the chapel's hushed sanctuary. Dust motes danced in the colored light as Mara walked slowly down the aisle. Her fingers trailed along the wooden pews, touching where generations of others had sat in prayer or contemplation. The chapel felt both ancient and timeless, a pocket of peace in their storm-tossed world. Aurelio stood, his movements careful around his healing wounds. "Thank you for coming. You said you needed to tell me something." Her voice was steady, but her fingers worried at the hem of her sleeve. He drew a deep breath, tasting incense and old wood. "I need to tell you the truth about my vow." His hands flexed at his sides. "It was never about purity. It was about control." Mara's eyes met his, waiting. "I learned young that desire could be weaponized, that wanting something meant others could use it against you." He gestured to the chapel around them. "So I made this place my confession booth, built walls around my heart, told myself I was protecting others by staying cold." A shaft of blue light fell across Mara's face as she listened. Outside, they could hear Jude's distant laughter mixing with the splash of fish. "But you," Aurelio continued, his voice roughening, "you walked into my hotel that night and offered honesty when you had every reason to lie. You showed me that protection doesn't have to mean possession, that love can be a shelter instead of a cage." He took a step closer, close enough to see the flutter of her pulse at her throat. "I want to surrender something only you can take, the right to be yours, in public and private, to protect without owning, to build a home where criminals stay outside and every bedroom door stands open." Silence filled the chapel, broken only by their breathing and the muted sounds of the garden. Mara's eyes searched his face, reading the truth there. Then she moved, crossing the space between them with determined steps. "I have terms," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Name them." Jude's laughter comes first. "Before business, before revenge, before everything." Her chin lifted. "And I want a foundation, funded by clean money from your ports, to feed families like we were, so no mother has to walk into a strange hotel at night." Aurelio nodded, hope rising in his chest. "And this." She pressed her palm to his heart. "This love we're building, it doesn't erase the blood in your past, but it means that blood buys no more pain, no more fathers lost to accidents, no more children sleeping in cars." "I swear it." His voice was rough with emotion. The morning light wrapped around them as Mara rose on her toes. Their lips met like a seal pressed into warm wax, a promise written in touch instead of words. His hands found her waist, steady and sure, as her fingers curled into his shirt. The chapel door banged open, making them jump apart. Jude burst in, holding his stuffed fox triumphantly overhead. "Look, Miss Sarah helped me fix him." The fox's throat showed neat stitches where the red marker had been. In place of its missing eye, a small brass button gleamed. Not Arcadi's star, but a simple round one that caught the light like a wink. "Can we go home now?" Jude asked, hugging the fox close. The fish are all counted. Aurelio bent down to meet the boy's eyes. "Home sounds perfect." He straightened and found Mara's gaze again. "Your nights are no longer for sale," he whispered against her mouth. "And they never will be again." Their footsteps echoed on the chapel floor as they walked toward the door together. Outside, sunlight bathed the garden in gold. Kellen stood by the security station, his tablet showing a grid of green lights as he disabled the last perimeter alert. The household seemed to exhale around them, settling into its new shape. Guards still walked their routes, cameras still watched the walls, but the air had changed. This was no longer a fortress against threats. It was simply home. Jude skipped ahead on the garden path, his fox swinging by its tail as he pointed out flowers to his mother. Aurelio watched them, feeling the weight of his choices settle into place. The vow that had defined him for so long transformed into something new. Not a wall, but a foundation. Not control, but protection freely given and trust freely returned. The morning stretched bright before them, full of possibility. Sometimes love grew best in broken places, like flowers pushing through concrete. Sometimes the strongest families were built from fragments, held together by choice instead of blood. And sometimes the safest worlds were created not by power, but by the simple act of opening a door and letting love walk in.